Hey there, so this video is about the Kimagure Orange Road CDs and basically a reaction to the CDs. This video is going to be a little bit of a spoiler if you haven't seen Kimagure Orange Road, the anime to its conclusion, or read the manga. So definitely, if you don't want spoilers, turn the video off now. But that said, if you're still here listening, then you probably want to hear the reaction, my reaction at least, and maybe kind of have a little bit of a anime nerdy discussion. um, so yeah, the CDs. I got into the CDs because I belonged to the Reddit forum for Kimagure Orange Road, and I found myself reading the manga again because I think I happened to just kind of see it in my Amazon Kindle as a recommendation for the Japanese Amazon Kindle that I have. And so I was like, oh yeah, I remember Kimagure Orange Road. It was something that I saw a long time ago when I was in high school. I saw kind of like a bootleg version with my friend, and I don't really remember the parts of the story, or I didn't remember the parts of the story. So I decided, you know what, I'm gonna jump in and just read this manga. And so I really enjoyed the manga. And then, on top of that, I decided to join the Reddit forum and just see what was going on in the Reddits. What were they talking about? I asked a question, what do you think if Netflix picked this up? Would they do a good job essentially translating this into like some kind of cool show? And would they be able to kind of preserve the 80s aspect of it? That led to a flurry of discussions where like people were like, "No, Netflix ruins everything. Hollywood in general should stay far away from anime." And so, yeah, from there I just started like contributing to the Reddit forums, and I suppose like there was a thread about the CDs, right? There is a CD radio show that came out, and for the most part it was untranslated. And so I have some translation skills, not that great, but I thought, you know what, I'll just practice and get better. That's why I'm, even creating this channel and, learning, studying Japanese a little bit more. So I do have, some experience in like being able to translate well, because, when I was in school, like I was forced to translate a lot. And then I also contributed to Anime Expo for some translations. And then there were years that kind of went by and I kind of stopped. But more recently, I started picking up all the stuff again, especially given my wife's Japanese and, like the family only speaks Japanese on her side. So I have to really kind of be on my game when I'm, hanging out with the family, as well as like it's just fun, reading stuff. So I got into the CDs after somebody was telling me about it, and I just started listening to them. And I was just like, wow, these CDs are so different from the actual manga or anime. And I think in my mind, and somebody was asking me to like in a chat, where I would rank, the CDs versus the anime versus the manga. So I would kind of get to that. But let's just talk about the CDs for the most part. Um, the CDs kind of talk about the theme of parallel worlds, and throughout Kimagure Orange Road, that seems to be sort of like a common thing that is shared between the manga, the anime, and the CDs and everything else. Kyosuke, the main character, Kasuga Kyosuke, is an Esper type. Essentially, he has like magic, extrasensory powers. He can teleport. He can do like other magic tricks throughout the manga, but I think his teleportation thing is like his unique thing. But he tends to kind of fall into like parallel worlds, and he kind of like can time travel a little bit. And his family also has a lot of special powers, like his cousins. One of them can change minds with other people, so swap bodies, and then another cousin can pretend to be another person. So she has the ability to copy or clone someone. So, and then he has a grandfather who I think can help him do the time travel. So they have, like this interesting, you know, gimmick that kind of, for the most part, like it keeps the story entertaining, but like it's always just sort of been like something that's just you know, not really a plot device. It hasn't really contributed to the main story. I don't think people were that interested in the magic or esper parts of the story, although it made for entertainment. It was always more about the love triangle between Kyosuke and Hikaru and Madoka, and who would Kyosuke actually pick, ultimately at the end. We all kind of knew that Kyosuke loved Madoka more than Hikaru. I mean, that's very evident from the entire time you read like the first chapter all the way to the end. He's always pretty obsessed with Madoka, but Kyosuke, for the most part, too, does like Hikaru. I was actually kind of confused a little bit about this dynamic. I was thinking, like, was he actually in love with Hikaru? Because he kind of seems like he doesn't want her at times, but then at other times he kind of does. And I think what it is in this parallel universe, at least with the CDs, they kind of explore the relationship dynamic a little bit more. So just kind of like to touch on the parallel universe stuff, right? I I don't really, and I haven't really been paying attention to, so that's my fault. But I don't really know which universe this Kyosuke and Madoka and Hikaru belong to, right? Because Kyosuke is the one jumping in and out of universes, right? So maybe I have to go back and read the manga and kind of like think, was he always in the same universe? Um, because maybe he isn't. Maybe the he that he thinks he is isn't the him anymore, or maybe he's always been sort of like a constant, but the other characters around him haven't. So it's hard to tell, and the CD kind of convolutes it more because like some of the other characters kind of escape the actual like timeline that they're in as well, like Madoka at the end of chapter double O. So it makes it a little bit more confusing to understand who's in what time and which period and what parallel universe, if you will. So that's kind of like my first concern with the CDs. Is like, what does this mean for the story overall? Now, there was a quote by the author, um, and he kind of mentioned that every story so far that has been created for Kimagure Orange Road has been a parallel universe. They're not related to any of the other universes. So the manga is completely different from the anime. The anime is completely different from the CDs, and so on. So it's weird, that's for sure. Um, and it just kind of makes it kind of like a little bit difficult to keep track. Again, it's hard for enough to kind of follow the story. It's a little bit more difficult with the parallel universes dynamic. And ultimately, I think it kind of feels a bit distracting because, like, again, even though the gimmicks and the magic and all this stuff is great, people just kind of want to understand, like, what is the story. I drew, sort of like parallels between Kimagure Orange Road and How I Met Your Mother, which is kind of like a similar story. In fact, sometimes I think How I Met Your Mother is probably like, maybe the Americanized version of Kimagure Orange Road, because like Kimagure Orange Road was written in the 80s, and then also produced in the 80s, maybe the late 80s. And so it's like a time capsule of what the 80s were like. And 80s, for the most part, is a really cool generation. I think there's a lot of interest nowadays too, like especially for a lot of people who live on YouTube. A lot of them kind of look at how life was in sitcoms and stuff like that for other time periods. 80s being one of them. I think 80s in general was sort of like a time of wealth and prosperity for a lot of different countries, especially Japan and America. And you could say that too about like maybe the 90s and double O's. There was prosperity, but there was also a little bit of a decline. So How I Met Your Mother sort of captures a little bit of the time capsule or time bubble with the double O's, and maybe the early tens. And so, but both of the shows kind of, talk about like relationships and, have a very central wishy-washy character who can't make a decision. That sort of is seeming to be the case with, both Kyosuke and Ted Mosby, right? And even though both of them have a main love interest, they're not able to get them. Like Kyosuke is Madoka, and Mosby is Robin, but like Kyosuke is blocked by Hikaru, and then Ted Mosby's blocked by other girlfriends, and I guess even the mother, right? If you finish the ending and you think about How I Met Your Mother, like the mother was sort of irrelevant ultimately. It was sort of um, always Robin that Ted was interested in, and same with Kyosuke, he was always interested in Madoka. So for me, like I kind of felt like, you know, the series itself for Kimagure Orange Road, um, the story probably felt like the relationship was more important than the magic, right? Like that's what people were interested in both shows. Like people were interested in finding out who would he get with ultimately. Is he going to make a decision? And so in the manga, like when Kyosuke finally starts to think about who he wants, um, the manga has Hikaru sort of move herself out of the way so that Kyosuke can go after Madoka. Right? Hikaru kind of finds out through Kyosuke's sister that Kyosuke really loves Madoka. And because Hikaru really feels like Madoka is her older sister and really loves her in a sisterly like way, she wants Madoka to also be happy. And so both of them, Madoka and Hikaru, kind of like act like sisters to each other, protecting each other. And Hikaru and Madoka both, like will put their own wants and desires to the side so that the other can be happy. And so Hikaru finally realizes that Madoka has wanted to be in a relationship with Kyosuke all this time, but Hikaru was kind of like in the way, so she cries a bit, but she then, tells Madoka to go after Kyosuke, and then that's how they're able to kind of get together. So, in my opinion, I liked the manga, the way that it ended, because it felt like there was some closure and we got to see the relationship end on a good note, on a happy note. If I were to grade the manga's ending, I would say that it probably got a B because Kyosuke didn't do the breakup with Hikaru. He never did. He was just always indecisive, and he stays indecisive. He never really has any growth. So the manga ending, you know, for what it's worth, right? Like that aspect, alone kind of like again, Kyosuke he didn't make a decision, which sucks, but at least it has a happy ending, right? Because all three characters sort of walk away a little bit happier. Um, Hikaru feels good about Madoka like getting the guy that she wanted, and then Kyosuke and Madoka feel good because they're actually finally able to be together, and it's a happy ending, and they all stay kind of friends, right? Um, then the anime version sort of, like if you take the movies into account, has Kyosuke actually break up with Hikaru in the movie I Want to Return to That Day. But for me, like, I didn't really like that ending because I felt like it was too strong and it felt out of character for Kyosuke. Um, but many of the other anime fans of Kimagure Orange Road kind of prefer the anime ending because Kyosuke finally actually makes the decision, right? But most of the movie is unhappy, and Hikaru, for me at least, like she ends up crying most of the movie and leaving the trio, and it's just Madoka and Kyosuke at the end. So ultimately, it's not as happy of an ending for me, so I didn't like it as much. Um, with the CDs are the weirdest because it's again this parallel world gimmick that no one really cares about. And it gets in the way of like this, helping like the relationships find closure. So essentially, there's three chapters: chapter 17, chapter 18, and chapter 00. And the way when I was reading them, I kind of took them to mean like when I was translating, I felt like chapter 17 was mostly focused on Madoka and Kyosuke's relationship, and essentially when Madoka leaves for America, she doesn't really tell Kyosuke that she's leaving. Kyosuke kind of finds out through Hikaru, and then he feels very sad about it. He runs into Madoka though, like at night, and then Madoka and him have a discussion about which place they like more. And Madoka finally tells him about America and her traveling there, while Kyosuke says that he prefers Japan. He says that the city they live in is just as exciting for him as opposed to America. And I guess there's a lot of symbolism in the way that this chapter and the next few chapters are carried out, because there's a lot of involvement of the stone stairs that Kyosuke and Madoka met on. And so when Kyosuke is actually climbing the stairs in chapter 17, with Madoka, the feeling is kind of like weird and off. And essentially, Madoka goes on, right? I think she makes a note about it, but she goes on to go to America anyway. And then I feel like for us as an audience, that's where the story ended for Madoka. She goes to America. And then at the very last point, there's a bit of hesitation, right? And I'd say like it causes a decision tree in the time universe space or whatever you want to call it. So technically the ending where Madoka leaves for America probably is the ending that Madoka should go on. That is the correct ending for Madoka, in the CD universe at least. Whereas because now like she's hesitant too, there's also one more decision tree, but it doesn't get explored until chapter 00. So then chapter 18 is a little bit about how Kyosuke feels after Madoka's left, and he meets Hikaru at the top of the stone stairs, which has symbolism, and the two of them end up counting stairs after Kyosuke catches a red hat, the very same red hat that he caught at the beginning of the series in the book, and then that led to him meeting Madoka. But in this version, he meets Hikaru, and then they count the steps together, and he finds that there are 101 steps instead of 100 or 99 steps, which confuses him, and I guess again confuses the audience, right? Like the parallels kind of are a little bit weird, but I guess the symbolism is that Hikaru represents more of a future alternate version of life, and I guess in her mind, she did like Kyosuke, but I guess the way the chapter kind of unfolds is they kind of hang out. Kyosuke feels bad about Madoka leaving, but he picks Hikaru and decides to be in a relationship with her. And then they are in a relationship over the next 6 months, and Hikaru feels very happy and excited about it. But then, like, the excitement sort of diminishes over time, and she decides that she's no longer in love with Kyosuke. And during another meeting of the stone stairs itself, she kind of tells him that after she finds that Kyosuke had been sort of like being really late and unenthusiastic about her dates, she had been venting to Kyosuke's rival, Yusuke, who then also appears and tells Kyosuke that, he's a jerk and he had made Hikaru sad entire time that they were in their relationship. So Kyosuke and Hikaru break up. Actually, Hikaru is the one who removes herself away from the relationship, which kind of feels like in sync with the rest of the stories, right? Like in every parallel universe, Hikaru kind of removes herself out of the way, right? And makes way for Kyosuke and Madoka to kind of be together, or to kind of come back. But, in this version, like chapter, I think 18, Kyosuke feels really bad about breaking up with Hikaru and Yusuke getting her. And I guess like it feels like a painful 6 months for him because also Madoka's gone. And so the way Hikaru's arc ends, right? Like with this, right? We saw Madoka's arc end with chapter 17. Chapter 18, Hikaru's arc ends with her finding closure with another guy. And that guy is Yusuke, because Yusuke actually listens to her. And I think Hikaru herself, like if you go off the CDs, and maybe if you kind of look at the manga and the anime as well, Hikaru, I think that she never really did love Kyosuke as much as we think she did. I think she was attracted to him because, he was kind of like in demand, or like, I guess he was always kind of like like seeing both Madoka and Kyosuke at the Hikaru at the same time, and Hikaru probably always kind of felt like the sense that she couldn't catch Kyosuke. She wanted to pin him down, and uh, because he was always a little bit distracted and always kind of like giving her mixed signals, she couldn't really kind of like figure it out. But ultimately, like Hikaru kind of, you know, when she finally gets Kyosuke, she feels like, okay, I pinned him down. Now, we should be happy, but I don't think she's happy. Like she wants like to be in a relationship. She's in love with the idea of being in love, and she wants to feel excitement all the time. Um, and so I don't think like in any universe, right? Like she would have got that from Kyosuke because Kyosuke can't give her like 100% attention. Maybe that is exciting when she knows that, um, she's dating him, but when she finally pins him down, if he doesn't give that 100% attention, then it's not worth it anymore. It's not worth being in a relationship for. And Hikaru, again, too, like she wants to move forward. I kind of was thinking like there was a theme here, right? Where Madoka sort of is um, kind of like thinking about like themes of the past. She wants to go to America. She wants to be with her parents again. She wants to study abroad. She wants to be talented. She's afraid to kind of go be in a relationship with Kyosuke because she'll be giving up a lot of her other things. So she's on like the stone stairs, and she counts 99 stairs. So I kind of felt like she was a step backwards, right? A step before like the end of the story. Whereas Kyosuke always counts 100 for some reason. So he represents like the present, the today. And then Hikaru kind of counted 101 in this chapter, right? So she wants a future, in my opinion. That's what I think it is. So she like desires those things, right? Like that's what she wants out of any like guy that's going to treat her well. So she wants, a marriage, children, a house, beautiful fence, all of that great stuff, the white picket fence. Those are the things that Hikaru wants, and she's going to go and get them in basically any universe. That's what she wants. And if you add, some of the anime elements to it too, like maybe she goes on to like do dancing and be successful in New York, right? Like these are all like things. And if you actually kind of think about it, it's more like Hikaru and Madoka sort of switch places. I was starting to think about that a little bit as I had started deep diving into this a little bit more today. Um, like at the beginning, actually in the manga, there's like a mini story where Madoka and Kyosuke and Hikaru are all together, but Madoka and Hikaru are children, and Kyosuke somehow like time slipped into the past, where Madoka's I think maybe a 6-year-old or a 7-year-old, and Madoka has short hair like Hikaru, and Hikaru has long hair, and ultimately, after meeting them and like helping them out, and then not revealing his identity, he kind of like teases them and says that Madoka would look better with long hair, and I guess Hikaru like decides to cut her hair to look more like Madoka after that. Um, and so, yeah, and I think it was because of some kiss, because like I think Kyosuke kisses Madoka on the cheek or something like that, and then Hikaru sees that and she wants that. I have to kind of read the story again a little bit. I might be a little wrong here, but I think that's what happened. And so they kind of switch places, right? So the future or the present, Hikaru has short hair, and the present, Madoka has long hair. And then towards the end of the CD, right, it seems like, again, they're switching places, or even in the parallel universes, Hikaru now becomes the person who is like focused on her talents and wants to move forward and create her own future, whereas Madoka is kind of like going back and forth between what she wants. Maybe she doesn't really want to like explore the future. She's afraid of what's going to happen. So, and that's very relevant in the chapter 18 and double O, right? Double O, after you say like chapter 18, like the closure for Hikaru is she moves on. Chapter double O is basically kind of like a weird chapter where Madoka, because of that decision tree, she should have gone to America, right? That should have been the ending. But she hesitated, and so she comes back to the universe that Kyosuke and Hikaru are in, and she's kind of broken the fourth wall, so she's not even really in the same universe anymore that she was in previously. um, she's time slipped or parallel slipped, if you will. And again, it's confusing, but she kind of now has like a more like overall understanding of what is going to happen next. um, and so she kind of mentions to Kyosuke, who sees her, and she says, "Is it that surprising to see me? I've only been gone 3 days." And Kyosuke says, "Well, you've been gone for 6 months." And that causes some confusion between the two of them, because Madoka thinks, like, what is Kyosuke talking about? And Kyosuke thinks, what is Madoka thinking about? Um, and there's like a little story about like a Japanese monogatari, like a basically like a folk tale where there you talk a little bit about like the element of Urashima Taro, who was a fisherman who rescued a sea turtle, and he brought it back to Sea Princess's underground castle, and the Sea Princess, rewarded the fisherman with 3 days of fun and excitement. And so when the fisherman actually returned home, he thought it was 3 days, but he had been gone for 100 days. And so it was kind of a weird story. And so like Aikawa kind of feels like maybe that's what's going on here. We also, as the audience, don't really understand what's going on just yet. But then like she starts to see Kyosuke climbing the steps again, and counting 100 steps, and Madoka saying there's 99. And then all of a sudden, the red straw hat comes at both of them, and Kyosuke attempts to catch it, but Madoka tells him don't catch it, and so he doesn't catch it. And essentially, like, she stops him because she thinks that if he catches it, she knows that the universe that she's in is going to crumble and fall apart, and Kyosuke is going to go to the next part of the story, which is back to the beginning of the story. This is where it gets really weird. Why would he go back to the beginning of the story? Well, it's because the author, for some reason, decided to make that the ending of the CDs. He's just like a CD, right? Like when you play a CD, like you listen to all the tracks, track 1, track 2, track 3, track 4, all the way to track 8. And then at the end of the CD, there is no ending. You just go back to the beginning, right? And start over, like almost on a repeat loop. And so that's what I think Madoka starts to understand, that there is no ending for this CD, like true ending for the story. And she starts to wonder why. And they have a debate about catching the red hat, because Kyosuke somehow seems to know too that if he catches the red hat, he can go back to the beginning of the story. It's like somehow they realize, like, they understand what the next step is going to be. And so they sort of argue about it at a coffee shop. And I think the author injects himself through the bar master or bar coffee maker. And he says that, to Madoka, like, even though like Madoka is kind of struggling with what Kyosuke wants to do, because Kyosuke and them kind of like end up arguing, and then Kyosuke says he's going to go back and catch the hat anyway, because he can't make a decision, right? He says to Madoka essentially that he loves Hikaru and he loves Madoka both. He can't decide on which person he'd rather be with. He would just rather, instead of making a decision, just go back to the point where they were all friends together and live their happy times. Why does Madoka like want to stop him from catching the red hat and enjoying those great feelings again? But Madoka wants to push forward. She wants to have a relationship with Kyosuke in a new meaning, even if that means breaking up with Hikaru, or even sort of making a clean break. But for some reason, this Kyosuke, he doesn't care like what Madoka is saying. He seems like a real weirdo. He doesn't want to move forward in his relationship. And so again, this bar master kind of like says it could be because like Madoka's trying too hard to push for a relationship when she should just be enjoying the summertime of her youth. Like, and the bar master the author through the bar master probably injects a little bit of himself and says, why do you want to grow up anyway? Isn't life better like just kind of being young? growing up is not so great. He has experience. And it could have been the time, like, the timing of everything, like why the author might have been thinking that way. Maybe like he was aging, maybe he was starting to feel his age or like sicknesses or whatever. And like he was, thinking about his youth, how it was a great time. 80s bubble Japan, great time to be in. So, and if you talk to a lot of older Japanese today, like, um, especially the people who remember the 80s, a lot of them talk about seishun. And so seishun is this concept of being young and enjoying the spring or summertime of your youth. So he says to Monica, like, why don't you just enjoy it? Like, enjoy the fun. What's the rush and trying to push forward? So ultimately, Monica decides, okay, fine. I'm not going to go to America. I'm not going to, try to push Kyosuke. So she has the decision to basically either run away and go to America or hang out with Kyosuke and let him catch the red hat. And so she lets Kyosuke catch the red hat, even though she knows that it would mean the universe that she's in would crumble. But she says, or it's implied that she does that because she loves Kyosuke. She wants Kyosuke to be happy. And so she puts her own needs to the side in true Madoka fashion. And that ultimately causes her to leave that universe. It crumbles as soon as, Kyosuke catches the red hat. He sees the old Madoka and he has gone back to the beginning of the book. And that Madoka like greets him and says, "Nice catch." And he starts the whole chapter all over again, the whole manga, everything, like all of it starts all over again, where he is a newcomer to the city, and he's just gonna like meet Madoka, and then he's gonna eventually meet Hikaru and go to school. It's like the whole world reset, and that's the future Kyosuke wants. So Kyosuke's arc has come to a close, and so now we're kind of left with Madoka, who let that happen. And so she's transported back again into the past, another time slip or parallel world, where she comes back to the same day where she's about to go leave for America. Um, and she has to tell Kyosuke, like at the park, like on the stone stairs, you know, that she's going. And Kyosuke is counting the stairs, and again he counts 100. Madoka says it's 99, but who cares? And ultimately, she just kind of like says, "All right, you know what? I accept this. I know that like we're always going to be going, um, back in time, and we're always going to be resetting. And I am consciously aware that this happens. Like I'll always come back to this point where I'm about to go to America and I'm going to talk to Kyosuke. But this time she just kind of like lets it happen. She just like says, "All right, I'll be back in 3 days." And then that inadvertently resets the universe. And we hear a series of people like talking and laughing, and we understand, or it's implied, that the universe has reset. So, very strange sci fi kind of story with the CDs. I feel, again, like, in my opinion, it just confuses like the whole the manga. It is an interesting story. I'll give it that. I'll say that like it made for an interesting story. It definitely gets you kind of thinking about like what is going on with like the CDs, and like the whole Kimagure Orange Road, like the concept. Like what is the author, like what was, he's no longer there, right? Because he passed away. But what in his mind was the true ending? Like what was he trying to say? Like I don't really understand, other than like maybe like he might have given the audience a forced ending with the manga. He might have been forced to write the ending, and then he might have been forced to, or whoever may have forced the anime ending. The CD ending kind of feels like an ending that maybe he might have wanted to explore, where there is no closure, right? There is no ending to the relationship. Because why? Why would you want a relationship, the three of them, to break up? Isn't it more fun just having fun with them, playing all the time? And if you think about the way the manga is too, and some of the anime, for almost 10 years, right? Like it was just a series of chapters that were just silly and joking and having fun. There was never any like movement of the needle of like whether the relationship was going to go towards Madoka or Hikaru. It was only as the author started to like feel ill and kind of get to the end of his life that they were starting to push him to finish the story. And so he was able to finish the story and give the closure. But I don't think maybe that was the ending that he wanted. I think the ending was there was no ending. You just enjoy Kimagure Orange Road and you enjoy the youthful aspect of it. That is the story. Why try to force an ending? So that, again, I don't know, but that might have been his true vision. That when you come to the end of the books, you just go back and read the books again. There was never an ending for Kyosuke, Madoka, and Hikaru. He never did pick. He didn't want to pick, and neither did the author, if that makes sense. So, having heard all this today, I'd love to hear your thoughts and your ideas. Did you like the CDs? Did you get a chance to listen to them? Are you going to go listen to them? Let me know in the comments. And have you read the manga? Have you seen the anime? Have you seen the movies? I have the short novels now, the Shin Kimagure Orange Roads, and I'm gonna read through them. They're in original Japanese, just like the manga that I've read was in original Japanese. I prefer to read in original Japanese because like there's no censorship, and like all the themes are of like alcohol and adult stuff. Like it is just more like authentic to me because it's a true representation of that time of the 80s. Like in the 80s itself, there wasn't social media, there wasn't, phones and apps and computers and all this stuff. There were computers, but like it wasn't just like it is today, right? Like, so people had to go outside and meet each other and like actually everybody knew each other in the same town. Dating was a little bit different. There was no apps. So like people married, the people that they knew from like their friends or relationships. So for a lot of people, that's really interesting to look at that paradigm. And there's even underage drinking and stuff like that. But the boomers, I say boomers, people from that time will just kind of look at it and say, yeah, that was how it was back then. We had more fun than you kids today. So I feel like all that's authentic. I really like enjoying some of that aspect, and I feel like it's good. Um, and so like I highly advise like if you're gonna read the manga, read in the Japanese version or like use something that's very translated well. But I'll give my own opinions on like the core Shin course mangas and put them in the translation at some point or just give summaries. Um, Thank you for listening and hope you had fun with this discussion. Again, if you like this, leave comments below, as well as a like, and subscribe if you're new. Check out some of my other videos. In addition to reaction videos, I also am playing games and teaching a little bit of Japanese as I play video games. I probably will teach more Japanese as well, like over time. And then I'm also just kind of like using the channel to kind of like explore like cool board games and video games and all the stuff. So hope you'll subscribe. And finally, if anything else, if you have a reaction video you would like to make, send it to me. I'd be interested in seeing it. All right, thanks a lot, and see you in the next video.